They are finally here, 20 candidates, 2 nights, 10 on the stage each night. We come to these debates with a frontrunner on the Democratic side. Joe Biden out in front of the pack. He's being chased by Bernie Sanders in second place. You got a couple other candidates there, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg. They've broken out a little bit. They're behind Biden, but they've gotten some support. And then, of course, you've got a lot of candidates who are out there, a whole ton of candidates who haven't got a lot of attention, who haven't shown a lot in the polls, but who are going to get an opportunity, a huge audience, an opportunity to get their message out there. It's the big question of debates. Do they change the race in an important and fundamental way? And when you look back at the history of presidential primary debates, you do find a lot of moments that really made a difference. Let's go back to 2008. Remember this? Democratic race in 2008. Again, Democratic race starts in Iowa. In Iowa, Barack Obama, a breakthrough victory. He wins the Iowa caucuses. He defeats Hillary Clinton. That's his major rival. But it's not just that. Hillary Clinton doesn't even come in second place in the 2008 Iowa caucuses. Remember this guy? John Edwards. John Edwards ekes out second place. Hillary Clinton, who was the national frontrunner going into Iowa, finishes third. And so overnight, the Democratic race changes. Now everybody's talking about Obama as the frontrunner as the candidates head to their final debate, the Saturday night before the New Hampshire primary. And this question came up. The question was to Hillary Clinton, and it was about likability.
What can you say to the voters of New Hampshire on this stage tonight who see your resume and like it, but are hesitating on the likability issue, where they seem to like Barack Obama more?
Well, that hurts my feelings.
I'm sorry, Senator. I'm sorry.
But I'll try to go on. He's very likable. I agree with that. I don't think I'm that bad.
You're likable enough.
Thank you so much.
Primary returns came in on Tuesday night in New Hampshire in 2008. I'm telling you, everybody watching those returns come in, including the Clinton campaign, was shocked because Hillary Clinton won. No poll had her winning the New Hampshire primary after what happened in Iowa. But when she won the New Hampshire primary, people look back to that debate moment, and they said it galvanized something in voters, brought them around Hillary Clinton at the last minute. They liked the way she handled the adversity of that week. They maybe didn't like what they saw in Obama in that moment, and they decided, you know what, we don't want this campaign to end. We want to keep this going. We want Hillary Clinton to have a shot, and that's what kept Hillary Clinton going, and in some ways prepared her for what was to come next, a role in the Obama administration and then her own campaign again in 2016. And speaking of 2016, how about the Republican nominee in 2016? Donald Trump, who knocked off, 15, Republican opponents back in the 2016 Republican primaries. There was a moment, again, it's this Iowa, New Hampshire window we talk about so much. There was a moment when Donald Trump looked like he was in trouble in 2016 on the Republican side. Remember Iowa? Trump lost Iowa. Ted Cruz won the Iowa caucuses in 2016. Donald Trump was second, and Marco Rubio was a pretty impressive third place, believe it or not. Trump was in trouble coming out of Iowa. All those establishment Republicans who didn't want him to be the nominee, they said, look at this. We showed he's a lot weaker than people thought he was, and now, if we can stop him in New Hampshire, we can stop him from getting the nomination. That's what the Republican establishment was thinking, and their hope was all about Marco Rubio. So that's how the stage was set for the Republican debate the Saturday night before the 2016 Republican primary. And it wasn't Trump who went after Marco Rubio. It was Christie.
Let's dispel with this fiction that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing. He is trying to change this country.
You see, everybody, I want the people at home to think about this. That's what Washington, D.C. does. The drive-by shot at the beginning with incorrect and incomplete information, and then the memorized 25-second speech that is exactly what his advisors gave him.
This notion that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing is just not true.
There it is.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
The memorized 25-second speech.
Well, that's the reason
everybody.
why this...
Did that cut the life out of Rubio politically after that showing in Iowa? Did that save Donald Trump in New Hampshire? Certainly we know what happened after that. Trump started winning more and more. Christie dropped out, formed an alliance with Donald Trump. Of course, that alliance still resonates to this day. But in that case, that was about the surge that didn't happen, maybe, because of what did happen in the debate. these debates, they are worth watching. You learn something about these people, you learn something about what they stand for, and they often do shape history.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.